So the first presenter I want to introduce, her name is Dr. Linda Greene. She delivered both of my kids. She delivered both of my kids via C-section. The second one, my daughter, who is 5 now, she was close to 10 pounds. And I had spoken to Henry before. I have that recorded. Yeah, the C-section, I have it recorded. And I was going to show it. And then I kind of said, you know what, maybe not a good idea, because there's blood, there's umbilical cords. You hear me screaming. The camera's kind of doing this. But in all honesty, that is one of the best days of my life. But to Dr. Greene, that's like a walk in the park on a Tuesday afternoon. She does that. She's done it hundreds of times, right? So, a round of applause for Dr. Linda Greene.
Good morning. I wish I had a professor such as Dr. Walt when I was in school. I think I would be speaking to you a lot more in a much better fashion than I probably will. But I'm just going to tell you my story. And I'm not going to start with my business. I think I'll end with my business. Because I really look around and I see all your young faces and it's so inspiring. And it makes me really want to tell you about my beginning and about what my life was like when I was sitting in your seat. Particularly because I was just told a statistic about this school that many people start and a large percentage don't finish. So I think I would be doing a disservice if I at least didn't address that. My story. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was the 6th child of an unwed mother. Brooklyn, New York, not necessarily the best beginnings. I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Bedford-Stuyvesant, do or die. Anybody here from New York? I thought so. And so, you're familiar. Took the train an hour and 15 minutes each way to school. Got up at 6 in the morning, got home at 6 at night. Commuting from Brooklyn to Queens to try and get a better education because I didn't want to go to Boys and Girls High, which is kind of in the hood. And, basically went off to college only because I was able to get a scholarship. Otherwise, I would have ended up at City College, but I was blessed to be able to, because of my financial need, be able to get a scholarship at Brown. I ended up going to Brown. At the time, I didn't even know Brown University was an Ivy League institution because my college counselor had suggested a 6 or 7-year medical education program. Because of my meager beginnings, I wanted to get through my education as quickly as possible. My father had passed when I was 4 years old. My mother was a single mom. And so I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue my education financially. I was a little afraid because my 8th grade teacher that was my mentor had to stop his education because he had to care for his family. And so I was very suspicious, even as a 15-year-old, that could happen to me. And I'm sure that there are many students in this room that have issues as far as financially continuing education. I worked in the cafeteria scrubbing pots to make money. Great experience, actually, I loved it. Got to hang out with a lot of other students, really loud when you're washing pots, so you get to play music and have a good time. But, definitely had to struggle in order to continue my education despite the loans and the grants. And definitely once you start applying to medical school, you don't really get those grants or anything like that. You have to go in debt. And because I stayed at Brown, of course it was deep debt. Ivy League institutions, even back then, charge a whole lot more money than colleges that don't tout that, acquired that branding. So finished my education, acquired a good amount of debt, came out of school and decided to come to Florida because my mommy was here. She's passed about 10 years ago, so that was a very good decision. So make sure you follow your parents. They're not always around. And so I'm very happy that I made that decision. She supported me as best she could to get me through that education. And so came here, and decided to go to work. And I actually worked in plantation at a practice that recruited me. And I worked there I actually came to that practice because I was coming to join a particular female that I was told is very, that we were born on the same day. And we had very similar work ethics and personality. And as soon as I came to that practice in plantation, she let me know, oh, I'm going to leave the practice because I'm going to start my own practice. She was becoming her own, starting her own business, becoming an entrepreneur instead of being employed. However, I had just had my son, who's now 25. He's actually in medical school in California. And I couldn't. I needed a job. My husband didn't have his licensing in Florida yet. And I really felt that I couldn't start. And I think that was one of my big mistakes in life, that I didn't take that step out in faith and say, I can do this. I really should have started with her. Instead, the next 2 years I spent working really hard, like 100-hour weeks at least, because when you first start out in a practice, you're pretty much like you are a resident. So I would do a full day of patients, and then my employer would say, we're going to the OR at 6 o'clock and do a hysterectomy. And I would be like, okay, and then you're going to take call every third night, and you're going to drive. I lived in Pembroke Pines. I would drive to do deliveries, and I would drive to Broward General, which is in Fort Lauderdale. I would drive up to Coral Springs. I would sometimes, in the same night, have to drive to Westside Regional, and then I'd get another call, oh, there's someone else at Broward General. So I would spend my nights touring Broward County during deliveries with my heart racing because she's going to deliver if you don't get there quickly, and you're going to, lose your license and have a bad reputation. And what I should have done was gone out, the lady's name is Dr. D'Souza, she's an excellent physician in Broward, and stepped out on faith, believed in myself, and said, I can live a little humbly. I can stay in my mom's 2-bedroom apartment for another 6 months and build my brand. I think I don't have many large mistakes in my life that I think about, but so I'm going to ramble a little bit, but I'm going to give you a few take-home points, and one of them is going to be believe in yourself. You don't have to have that high salary when you first start. It may be more important to believe in yourself and invest in yourself, and invest your time into building your story, and have a little bit more delayed gratification so that you can really profit in the end. Because 2 years later, I realized that was an error, and I had wasted 2 years, and I started my own practice. And that was in 1993, and so I've been practicing in Coral Springs ever since. And, it's definitely a learning process, so you have to have people who mentor you. That's one reason that Dr. Burton has brought many of you here today as well, not only to hear our entrepreneurial story, but in order to know that, we're kind of just like you. We're no different than you. Anything that we have done, you can do a lot better because you have a lot more tools than we had. We didn't have immediate, Siri telling us everything, how to get places. We couldn't get immediate answers, and we had to wing it a lot. And we still do because we don't even know what to ask a lot of the time. So you just need to know that that if you just keep putting one step in front of the other, believe in yourself, have a mentor so that you can talk with them, and don't be shy to reach out and say, could I call you once a month? Could I just touch base and just tell you what I'm doing and ask you what you think about it? Reach out to people, because you'll be surprised, because they'll end up getting more from you than you get from them. Just don't be afraid, and trust that they'll help you. And you know what? If that person is too busy, or they say they will and they don't, try someone else. Just, keep taking those small steps. Walk up to your professors. That's one thing I didn't do when I was in college. I never talked to my professor. Oh my goodness, I was too shy. I felt too intimidated. He might ask me something I don't know, so what? You'll learn. They're not going to judge you based on that. Utilize the resources that you're paying for. You're paying for this education. So make sure that you realize that you're the consumer and that your education is serving you, not that you're serving your education. I don't know how much time I have. Is that enough? You want to hear more? All right, cool. So then you can ask questions.